Over the past few years, I've ridden over 300 roller coasters. Though I certainly do have my favorites, there are quite a few coasters that exceeded my expectations. I dare even say these rides are substantially underrated in my book. While the term underrated is often overused online, this video will use the term to describe rides that I perceive as having somewhat of a bad rap in the community. With that being said, here is my personal top 10 underrated roller coasters. Number 10. Viper at California's Six Flags Magic Mountain, made by American manufacturer Aerodynamics. Before my trip to California this past June, I've heard almost nothing but bad things about Viper. This is an Aerodynamics mega looper and the only one left in operation. After the terrible ride experience I got on Great American Scream Machine at Six Flags Great Adventure, I wasn't too optimistic about riding its sister coaster. By the time I got off Viper though, I was pretty impressed. Though it did have a few rough spots, it was still substantially smoother than I thought it would be. The vertical loops and the corkscrews were thrilling, and even the batwing was enjoyable. My personal favorite inversion was the 144-foot tall vertical loop. Going through a relatively regular-sized loop so high off the ground was just flat out surreal. Plus, the airtime you get on the mid-course brake run is just awesome. Back in the day, mega loopers like Viper were game-changing and revolutionary with their multiple inversions and impressive sizes. Aerodynamics was a true innovator in the industry, and the more of their coasters I ride, the more I come to appreciate the vintage feel they often have to them. That doesn't mean I think all of their coasters have aged well by today's standards, but with Viper, I'd say it rumbles just enough without being painful. Some say they want Viper torn down and replaced with something better, but I actually hope the park keeps this running for as long as they can. It's a large, impressive coaster packed with inversions, and you may just be surprised by it. Number 9. Green Lantern at New Jersey Six Flags Great Adventure, made by Swiss manufacturer B&M. Stand-up coasters are certainly a mixed bag among enthusiasts. Some say the design itself is unsalvageable, but I've actually ridden a few stand-up coasters that I seriously enjoyed. One of these is Green Lantern. This is one of those coasters that is often lambasted among longtime park fans, especially since it replaced the Great American Scream Machine. Some say it's too rough and uncomfortable to enjoy, but I personally disagree with that train of thought. The thing is that I have a certain method to riding stand-up coasters. If you can position the seat just right before the restraints lock into place, you may be in for a more enjoyable ride. Now let's talk about the layout. Starting off with an epic 144-foot drop, you'll head straight into an enormous 121-foot tall vertical loop, which is just insane. What follows is a well-paced layout with 4 more inversions and some thrilling bank track sections. Traversing all of this while standing up somehow added to the ride experience, and I didn't get nearly as much headbanging as I thought I would. In fact, just this year, I got a ride where my ears barely touched the restraints. Strangely enough, I rode it in the second to back row at the time. You'd expect the back rows to feel rougher on coasters like these, but not on Green Lantern. Maybe I just got a good ride on it, but I'd happily check this one out again. Number 8. Timberwolf at Missouri's Worlds of Fun, made by American manufacturer Ridden Corporation. This is one of those wooden coasters that a lot of people want given the RMC treatment, but in all honesty, I had a great time riding it. This wooden roller coaster is made by the Ridden Corporation, which has made such infamous creations as Hercules at Dorney Park and Cyclone at Six Flags Magic Mountain. Again, I didn't expect much out of this, and was pretty much bracing myself for a painful experience. Over the years, this coaster has received a bit of retracking though, and I gotta say, it's paid off for sure. This wooden roller coaster is both long and forceful, packing in some great gut-busting drops and awesome airtime moments. I couldn't find a single dull moment in this layout, and its wooden coaster rumble was enough to make it more exciting without being too rough. Some may want to see this get the RMC treatment, but I think Timberwolf is great the way it is. Number 7. Thunderbolt at New York's Luna Park, made by Italian manufacturer Zamperla. I remember riding this back in 2016 at a coaster enthusiast event. Many of the enthusiasts I spoke to didn't have a high opinion of this ride though, but for me, this is the best Zamperla coaster I've ever ridden. I've reviewed this coaster before in the early years of my channel, and there were actually quite a few things I liked about this ride. First were the restraints. Many have criticized the Thunderbolt model's hard plastic restraints, however I found them to be much more comfortable than they looked. The shoulder straps felt non-existent, and I actually preferred them to some thicker over-the-shoulder restraints I've experienced. This coaster starts off with an awesome 90-degree drop before sending you straight into a sizable vertical loop. The layout additionally features a zero-G roll, a dive loop, and a corkscrew, which is quite a lot of variety for such a compact coaster. But perhaps my favorite feature of this ride were the airtime hills towards the end. The airtime you get on them is spectacular, and you can visibly see passengers lift out of their seats from off-ride. With a vertical drop, 4 different inversions, and even some great airtime, it was impossible for me not to enjoy this coaster. Without a doubt, I'd give it a big ol' thumbs up. Number 6. Goliath at Six Flags Magic Mountain, made by Swiss manufacturer Giovanola. The main consensus I often hear with this ride is often negative. Many enthusiasts describe it as an inferior hypercoaster that lacks forceful elements and airtime. While I admit I do prefer B&M hypers to Giovanola hypers, I still had a blast riding Goliath. Right from the start, the first drop into the tunnel is outstanding, and you hit that top speed of 85 miles per hour with full force. As for airtime, while there is one very good floater airtime moment towards the beginning, this coaster is much more about speed than the airtime, which is why a lot of people look down on this ride, though with the exception of an admittedly slow mid-course brake run, you just go zooming through this layout, and even after the brake run's pacing hiccup, the ride shortly regains its speed, sending you through an incredible downwards helix. Yes, I grayed down on it, and I'm not ashamed to admit it. This was one of those rides I'd happily marathon over and over again. It's smooth, fast, and much more fun than I expected. Number 5. Blue Hawk at Georgia Six Flags Over Georgia, made by Dutch manufacturer Vekoma. When this coaster first opened in Georgia, it was called Ninja and was widely known as one of the worst rides in the park. Even after its makeover in 2016, many still take issue with the ride's roughness to this day. For me though, I didn't think this coaster was nearly rough enough to take away from its fun factor. Thanks to the new vest restraints, the absence of headbanging allowed me to appreciate the coaster's strong layout. Since it was originally designed for a Jersey Shore boardwalk park, this coaster takes up a relatively small footprint. Nevertheless, Vekoma still packed this ride with 5 impressive inversions, one of which being one of only 2 butterfly elements in the world. Another result of its footprint is my favorite aspect of the ride, the near-miss elements. At several points on this coaster, you'll come within inches of the track and supports, giving the illusion you're about to smash into them. These moments were so effective, I found myself ducking on a reflex. It really is one of the best Vekoma coasters I've ridden, and I'd ride it again in a heartbeat. Number 4. GaleForce at New Jersey's Playland's Castaway Cove, made by American manufacturer S&S Sansei. This Jersey Shore coaster has had somewhat of a rough reputation ever since it first opened in 2017. Due to alleged issues with the contractors, the ride's track was said to be misaligned upon its initial completion. This led to many enthusiasts experiencing an uncomfortable ride on their first visit. Even the park's employees had concerns about the roughness, leading S&S Sansei to completely retrack the coaster at no additional charge. Unfortunately, because of its troubled opening, many will assume the ride is still rough and may be hesitant to give it a shot. Even I wasn't sure what to expect from this ride. After getting a chance to ride it though, I can safely say it's an incredible launch coaster. The launches are forceful and breathtaking, the elements pack in some excellent laterals and airtime, the track is smooth as silk, and the layout lasts much longer than you'd expect it to. But by far the best part of this ride was the fact that it can give 2 circuits in one ride. Yes, just this year, the park introduced a 2-circuit ride to this coaster. This way, the ride is twice as great as it was before. S&S did a great job with this small footprint, and the fact that it can give 2 circuits makes it even more awesome. Number 3. Raging Bull at Illinois Six Flags Great America, made by Swiss manufacturer B&M. Oftentimes when I get into a discussion about B&M hypercoasters, Raging Bull is often considered to be the black sheep of the bunch. Opening the same year as Apollo's Chariot at Busch Gardens Williamsburg, this was one of the first B&M hypers ever constructed. Instead of an out-and-back layout though, Raging Bull's layout is more compact, focusing more on banked turns than airtime hills. While I positively adore floater airtime, Raging Bull still manages to hold its own with other hypercoasters I've ridden. Some say it's the weakest B&M hyper, but the way I see it, Raging Bull is no less entertaining or thrill-inducing than other rides of its kind. There was so much to love about this coaster. First of all, the initial drop into the tunnel was one of the strongest hypercoaster drops I've ever experienced. Raging Bull uses a pre-drop to gain momentum before the big plunge, something I think should be more common on hypers. As for the airtime, there are actually a few good moments that'll lift you out of your seat. While not as common as other hypers, there's still that classic floater airtime we've all come to know and love from this model. Even the polarizing twister sections are exhilarating, as the train just soars through them. I've said it many times before, and I'll say it again, you can never go wrong with a B&M hyper, and Raging Bull is no different. Number 2, Riddler's Revenge at Six Flags Magic Mountain, made by Swiss manufacturer B&M. Yep, that's 3 Magic Mountain coasters on this list. All I can say about this one is, wow, who would have thought that a stand-up coaster could be this awesome? As I've said before, stand-up coasters consistently get a bad reputation in the coaster community. Even the amusement industry has shied away from this concept, as there hasn't been a new one manufactured in over 20 years. But regardless, the epic ride experience of Riddler's Revenge blew me away. I'm not joking when I say this is one of the best roller coasters at Magic Mountain. It is the tallest and fastest stand-up coaster in the world, and its action-packed layout is well fitting for its stats. The first drop and the enormous vertical loop are flat out astounding, and the way the loop circles around the lift hill makes it that much more impressive. Moreover, I was shocked at how smooth this coaster was. My head didn't even touch the restraints, and I was able to fully appreciate the many amazing elements this ride had to offer. With a total of 6 inversions and over 4,300 feet of track, Riddler's Revenge is more than worth riding. Even if you can't stand these kind of coasters, consider trying out Riddler's Revenge. And finally, number 1, the Boss at Missouri's Six Flags St. Louis, made by American manufacturer Custom Coasters International. Never, in all my years of riding roller coasters, have I seen a ride exceed my expectations like the Boss. Though many enthusiasts want this to get the RMC treatment, I sincerely hope the Boss stays as is for as long as possible. When I first visited Six Flags St. Louis, I didn't think I was going to like this coaster. From what I've heard from different people, I was expecting a rough wooden roller coaster that had overstayed its welcome. Like the first time I ate sushi though, this coaster took my low expectations and sent them on a rocket to the moon. Where do I even start with this one? The restraints are non-restrictive and allow a considerable amount of airtime. Speaking of which, the airtime is absolutely brilliant, sending you up and out of your seat more times than you can count. In addition, the speed of this coaster is phenomenal, sending you through the course at what feels a lot faster than 66 miles per hour. The whole thing is just insane, and its long terrain-based layout has plenty of trees to make it even cooler. If you've never been to Six Flags St. Louis, I highly recommend it for the Boss alone. Thank you all so much, and if you want to support me on Patreon, you can do so once again at the link in the description. Thanks for watching, everyone. Feel free to like, share, and subscribe. You can follow me on social media on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, or you can check out my website at themeparkcrazy.com. This is Theme Park Crazy, and I'll see you all next time.